Oh man, this year was awesome. I previously said that I love my top 4 years almost equally, and though this is true, I consider 2003 my favorite and a bit more equal than the others, and here's why. The story just blew my mind, from beginning to end. The Toa had just become Toa Nuva and appeared to be unbeatable. However, when the Borakal took away their elemental powers, the Toa were powerless and were easily pushed aside by the Borak threat. Just from how the story began in the comics and the Flash animations, it seemed that the Toa were doomed and could not defeat these guys. The Rakshi were also a threat that seemed unbeatable, and unexpected, since we did not get a second group of villains in the previous 2 years. The Rakshi led to Makuta, and then the Turaga told us about past Toa, leaving us to ponder at what was to be revealed in 2004. The location was still the same old Motunui Island, but it felt like the story was going to be headed elsewhere. The Rakshi had destroyed 3 villages, and Vakama hinted at another location he called My Island Home. So it was sad to be letting go of our home that we had spent the last 3 years in, but it was time to move on, and it was exciting to see where our characters were off to next. The sets were fantastic. We had new metallic Borak, and the Borak design is awesome, so no flaws there. The snake-like Rakshi were also amazing, and were the most malleable characters we had to date. The new Matoran design was a much-needed improvement from the old McDonald's disc throwers. The Titans were well done. I love Makuta and Takanuva, and the walking mechanism of Puku is pretty cool, but I didn't care so much about the kind of looks like a bird Goku bird. The characters were great as they had always been with the Toa Nuva, Turaga, and Matoran, but now we learned more about Makuta and the Borakal. We saw with the Borakal the same thing with the Barag. They weren't necessarily evil, they just had a mission and the Toa were obstacles in their way. We even may have thought Makuta was being good by keeping Motunui asleep to spare him pain, but of course that was not the case. The Bionicle Flash animations continued into early 2003, and they told us the story of the Toa battling against the Borakal and eventually being victorious. The animations would stop after that, because we were in store for a greater treat later in the year. I remember getting my January 2003 LEGO magazine. And remember, I got the Canadian edition, so bear with me. LEGO had this gimmick called Ask Radini, where fans would ask him LEGO-related questions, and the top question for this issue was from Michael. Has the LEGO company ever thought of making a LEGO Bionicle movie? This was the first time I had heard of the Bionicle movie, because I wouldn't discover BZ Power till March of that year, so this was really exciting. I immediately looked up the movie online and found the movie trailer.
In the time before time, far beyond all you imagine, there is an island paradise where legends are real. Protected by 6 mighty guardians. Threatened by one immortal enemy.
Their unity, their duty, and their destiny, I must shatter.
After watching it, I got really mixed feelings. I think the first thing that caught my attention was they all had fingers. The sets didn't have fingers, so why should they? I guess I was expecting the characters to look just like the sets, so it took me a while to adapt to it. But I did, and I watched every new clip that was released, and I bought it the day it came out on September 16th. I loved the movie, and I loved the Toa's voices even more.
Chronicler! Onua, my friend.
Sorry, brother.
I think that's what most fans were excited for, was to hear their favorite Toa's voice, and LEGO didn't disappoint us. Although Liwa's voice was a bit different than I expected. I was expecting something more like this. But that was not the case.
Not never.
Also, did anyone else notice the story's similarity to The Lord of the Rings? I don't know how many of you saw that old fan video, The Lord of the Masks, that took footage from the Mask of Light movie to audio of a Lord of the Rings trailer, but you really see how alike they are. Think about it. 2 characters that are shorter than everyone else go on a long adventure with one very important golden object that would have great consequences if in the wrong hands. There are large disturbing figures that are seekers and have no great interest in others except the carrier of this object, and they search every corner of the land to find him. I doubt LEGO was trying to copy The Lord of the Rings, but they are very similar nonetheless. The Chronicles books were released in late 2003, and now we had more than one book to tell the story of a whole year. Makuta's revenge was nothing special, just the Borakal story told as quickly as possible. The Mask of Light book I felt was far worse than any preceding book. It felt like it was written scene by scene from the movie, which I felt was terrible because movies and books usually are much different from each other. The Tales of the Masks was Greg Farshti's first Bionicle book, and he really set the standard for the books to be much more in-depth and exciting than they were before, and he never disappointed us after that. The comics were awesome. Randy Elliott, man, do I need to say anymore? In my January 2003 magazine, LEGO was advertising the Star Wars miniatures and the NBA basketball sets, and we were all thinking the same thing. Wow, black LEGO figures. But what got my attention were the advertisements for these Bionicle. I didn't know what they were, so I went on and read the comic that came with the magazine, and I noticed something that I have still not found an answer to. Why was issue 10 and later issue 12 so much smaller than any other comic? Sure, they were great, but why the change? If you know the answer, let me know, please. Anyway, I was reading the comic and I gasped when I saw the Bionicle and how easily they knocked the Toa off their feet. It stunned me, and I cannot wait for the next issue to continue the story. And of course, later on in the year, who could forget the Golden comic introducing Takanuva? That cover was beautiful and definitely a must for any Bionicle fans collection. The collectibles for 2003 went up and beyond anything that our imaginations could envision. We got a new package that released more Kanohi-Nuva, but we got 48 more Krana to collect, and each had a beautiful metallic color that made them really appealing to the eyes. But it wasn't the 48 Krana that got us all excited. Hidden within random Bionicle sets were 5,000 white metal Chronicle and 72 sterling silver Chronicle. These Krana were super rare, even though some managed to possess 4 of these things. I lived in a Canadian city of just over 100,000 people, so the odds of me finding one was slim to none. Too bad I didn't have a metal detector at the time. This promotion by LEGO was a great idea, and the search was really exciting, much like trying to find one of Willy Wonka's golden tickets. There were also 8 vacuum metal Krana that were originally going to be released in the Bionicle sets, but that plan was stopped and the masks ended up being released in giveaways. Those were enough collectibles to get fans excited, but oh no, LEGO wasn't done just yet. With the release of the Rakshi came the Krata, and there were already 36 with the Rakshi colors, with each set having one random Krata stage. But there were also small Krata canisters that contained stickers and 3 Krata of even more colors than the 6 Rakshi. Not only that, but each Krata had a power as well, totaling 42 powers at 6 different stages, adding up to 252 Krata. But there were more. Later in the year, the Rakshi were released again with 1 purple Shadow Krata inside with the possibility to collect all 6 stages. Nike also released shoes that came with a Neo Orange Stage 1 Krata, so including all these Krata, that's 259 Krata to collect, plus the Chronicle and whatever remaining Kanohi-Nuva you did not have. LEGO did an incredible job with the collectibles, and it never came close to the variety and the excitement we got that year. The mystery was pretty cool this year with the Bionicle and Rakshi. Who were these Bionicle in the first place, and why did they even exist? What were these Rakshi creatures, and could Makuta make as many as he wanted? Were they really his sons? What was Makuta's true reason for keeping Motunui asleep? Where did the Kanohi Avoki come from? What was this other island home Vakama spoke of? Many questions surrounded 2003, but we also learned new things as well. We learned that there could be a Toa of Light, but the biggest of course being that the Toa Nuva were not the first Toa, and this statement was a great cliffhanger. 2003 was, and still is, my favorite Bionicle year. It had everything I believe a Bionicle fan could ever want and then some, and it really put Bionicle more on the map than it already was. After tallying the points, I give 2003 an excellent 93% rating. My favorite year, and definitely one that we Bionicle fans greatly enjoyed. Well, that's my review on the Bionicle franchise. I can't think of anything else I want to say about the years, or Bionicle in general for that matter. Bionicle had its ups and downs, but even through the hardships, it ended magnificently like most great tales do. I know many will disagree with me on my points, but this list could lead to a great discussion. After all, we're all different and have diverse thoughts. If Bionicle never does return, it will still be cherished by many as a great LEGO toy line. As I sit here, talking about the story and the books on my shelf, I'm reminded of the days of years ago. The day 6 canisters washed up on a golden beach.